Hello and welcome to Find Your Swedes. Today I'll be talking about provinces, counties, and parishes, how they relate to each other and to your genealogical research. I'm embarrassed to admit that I went far too long not understanding all of this, so I'm hoping that this video will get you started off on the right foot right from the beginning. First I will explain some terms and then show some maps, and finally talk about some changes that were made in 1997 at the county level, which affect the structure of genealogical databases used today. I've also prepared a PDF handout with the information covered in this video, which I will link to in the description below if you'd like a reference to keep handy. So with that, let's get started. First, we have the provinces. These are geographic areas of Sweden. They are still very much in use, despite the fact that you will sometimes see them referred to as historical provinces. But they still exist today. People's identity is closely tied to their province. You'll often hear people say, I come from Småland, I come from Hälsingland, from Jämtland. They're most likely referring to the province. There are cultural differences between the provinces. There are sometimes dialect differences. You'll often see the words in old letters, in historical accounts, on some maps. So even though there's no administrative function within the provinces, it can be useful information to understand how they all fit into the picture. Next up, the counties. This is where the records are kept, and these are the names that are included in the standard place format in genealogical databases, indexed records, and when entering information into family trees. The records themselves also will always have the county name on them and never the province name. So even if you don't see the letters LAN appended onto the name of the county, it will still be referring to the county, even if it by chance happens to have the same name as the province. Last but certainly not least, parishes. This is where the records were created. This is because there was no separation of church and state for many centuries, and it was left up to the clergy to be the ones to have to record all vital statistics, which they did in the so-called church books. And then these were duplicated and passed on to the counties from time to time for storage. So just to recap, provinces are geographical areas, counties are the administrative where the administrative records are kept, and the parish is where they were created. Next, we're going to move on to looking at some maps, so all of this can be a little less theoretical. Here on the left, I have the provinces, and on the right, the counties as they were up until the reform in 1997. So here you can see some of the ways that the counties and the provinces correspond, and then other ways how they don't. So the names are often similar, but the area that they comprise is quite different. As you can see, Lapland does not have an administrative center called Lapland. It still has a province, but the north part of Lapland is administrated by Norrbotten, and the southern part of Lapland is administrated by Västerbotten. Down here you'll see that there are provinces that are not even listed over on the county map, so that's Västernorrland includes these two. Gävleborg's kind of interesting because it's a county that includes two provinces. Well, actually, that was the same with Västernorrland. So Gästrikland, Hälsingland are both part of Gävleborg County. Kopparberg, you can see just the tip of it there. It maps almost exactly with the province of Dalarna. So moving down to southern Sweden, here we see that there are quite a few more counties than there are provinces. So Småland is a relatively big area, and it encompasses these counties, and Skåne down here, Västra Götaland, the province. It's pretty much like here, Dalsland, Älvsborg contain parts of Dalsland. You can see that. Anyway, so that's how that mapped out up until about 1997. So the reforms that happened will affect mostly the counties in southern Sweden. These two counties have disappeared. The county is now called Skåne. Västra Götaland, the province, still there. But now the new county of Västra Götaland, which is not the same as Västra Götaland, were incorporated into the new one. Moving a bit farther north, the former county name Kopparberg is now the same as the province Dalarna. Now you may be wondering why you need to know these new county names, since the records were all created prior to the restructuring. The fact is that the new names will show up in certain scenarios. One example is in family trees. Some people choose to use the new name in the place name field, and some will choose the old. So it is really helpful to know that if you see, for example, Västra Götalands, that the records themselves might say Älvsborg or Skaraborg or Gothenburg. Another example, which I will be showing you next, is the difference between Riksarkivet, which is the online portal to the National Archives of Sweden, and which allows free access to browsing the digitized church records, and the genealogical databases such as Ancestry and MyHeritage and Archive Digital. But before I dive in, I just wanted to remind you that I've created a cheat sheet explaining everything in this video, so don't forget to grab that. Here are the two repositories side by side, the way they look when you are browsing for records. Riksarkivet has organized their database using the new county names, and Ancestry has kept the old. So let's start with the county that changed in name only, which is Dalarna. So Dalarna will not show up as a county in Ancestry. They still use the name Kopparberg, which is the name that you'll also find in the actual records when you open them up and look. And now if you want to find those records, then you have to go to Dalarna in this repository. Then the newly created county, Västra Götalandsland, that one used to have 3 different counties within it. It had Skaraborg, Älvsborg, and Gothenburg Bohus. So they are still here. Here's the Gothenburg one, and Skaraborg, and Älvsborg, which is at the end of the alphabet because the Swedes consider that A with the 2 dots to be a letter and not just an umlaut. So they put it at the end of the alphabet. And here you will see that there's no Älvsborg, no Skaraborg, and no Gothenburg. So this one, they're all placed under Östra Götalandsland, and all the parishes that used to be in the other counties are now here. And of course, the same applies for the older counties of Kristianstad and Malmöhus, which are still in Ancestry and in Riksarkivet are now listed under Skåne. I hope this video has given you a better understanding about how all of this fits together. I know how daunting it can be when starting out with Swedish genealogy. So I'm offering free 20-minute Zoom calls, which you can sign up for on my website. I'll put the link to that in the description below. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Hej då!